Hi, on this month's blog, I'm going to be talking about my experience as an empath and what that means to me and some kind of things I'm doing with my empathiness and some lessons I've learned along the way. So I want to start by saying that I don't really like labels. And, calling myself an empath is something that I am hesitant to do for a couple of reasons. One is that it's often misunderstood, like you're an empath, oh, you feel more than everybody else, or oh, you're a psychic, or like you're a phony. Like really, those are some things that have come up. And also being an Eckhart Tolle fan and really trying to lead a truly spiritual, mindful life, the ego really likes labels and likes to cling to them. And so I'm hesitant usually to label myself because of that. But at the same time, labels can be empowering if you let them and you don't let them define you. So, I'm not going to let being an empath define me like this is it and I'm going to use it as an excuse or, anything like that. And so I think as long as we label and we use labels carefully, they can be empowering. So for me, the label or the term empath is empowering. And what an empath to me is someone, or my experience, is someone who just feels other people's feelings. So ever since I was a child, I could tell what somebody else was feeling and sometimes even what they were thinking without trying. I would be really overwhelmed at school as a kid because there were a lot of feelings at school and I would just feel like, oh my gosh, just overwhelmed. And I didn't know what an empath was until the age of 19. I had my belly dance instructor was the one that told me I was an empath. And then at that time, there wasn't a lot of information out there. And so I was already on a spiritual path, and I was actually taking, besides belly dance, I was taking classes on paganism with her and Wicca. And so I was already on that path. And so I was like, okay, so I can feel people's feelings. So what, does that mean I should encourage this and try to be more psychic, try to, go towards that path, or should I try to shut this off? How's this work? And so at that time, I actually leaned more towards let's explore this. I was doing ghost hunting, and I was working more towards being psychic. And then things I started really seeing things, and I got kind of freaked out. It's I really don't actually want to do this. And if you talk to people who are psychic mediums, at first they kind of, and sometimes, not all of them, but they see it sometimes as a burden. It's a lot to know things about people. And so I pulled back on that. And then I just kind of tried to ignore it. I'm going to try to shut it off, which you can't do. So I became a teacher, and my empath abilities, it's a classroom full of kids, and I could feel their feelings. I would be so tired at the end of every school day. I could feel their feelings, and that actually helped me as a teacher. It helped me really connect with kids and help kids through a lot of traumas, prevent some suicides, and had people tell me, be the first person that they come out to if they were gay, or first person to tell something terrible to, or tell a secret to. And it's a big responsibility, but I really loved that. And that was my favorite part of teaching, was being able to help kids like that. However, I would get really drained doing that. And when I say drained, it's just a different kind of tired, just an exhaustion that's both physical, mental, emotional. It's everything, just so exhausted. And then I also, because they're children, you can't tell them hey, you should pray to this angel, or you can't cross those lines. And so that was hard. That's actually part of why I wanted to be what I am, which is I've always wanted to be a healer, but like I said, I've been hesitant to do that or say that or even work with that, but here I am. on this journey and sharing it with you in case, you're on a similar journey or you're just curious. So anyway, recent, and I just kind of didn't use the term, like I would never tell anybody, like, hi, I'm Jenny, I'm an empath, like that's, no. And then I was in a group of teachers, we worked together, and one of them, she said, I'm going to miss you. This is when I was going to another school, you're my empath, like you always know how everybody's feeling. And I was like, oh, like, I didn't know she knew that term. And I was just like, okay. So then I ended up at a workplace where I worked with 7 other people in one room. It's like a little schoolhouse, and it was terrible for lots of reasons. But one of them was that I was just feeling what everybody was feeling all the time. And the people I worked with, a couple of them were fairly even keel, but for the majority, like anxiety, depression, anger, like really big feelings. And I just, it's actually when I got diagnosed with Hashimoto's and I got really sick. It was just terrible. And I'm really happy not to work there anymore. But that led me to really think about, these feelings. And so at that time, that was 3 or 4 years ago now, maybe 5, I started looking into what it meant to be a highly sensitive person. And I liked that because it wasn't a woo-woo, it wasn't like I'm an empath and I just feel feelings. It was like real brain evidence, real physiological difference between you and the rest of the population. And so if you don't know highly sensitive people, it's a term coined by Dr. Elaine Aron. And basically, it manifests in different ways, but it's proven that we just feel differently. Like we take in more information and we feel it deeper. And there's an inability to sometimes let that go. So for instance, both my kids are highly sensitive as well. And if any of us have a tag that's itchy in our clothing, that's all they can hear. That's all I hear about until I can fix the tag. But having experienced myself, it's all I can think about. I can't put it out of my mind. Whereas an average person, you have an itchy tag and it's irritating, but you can go on with your day. Whereas we just get so overwhelmed with it. It's I can't focus on anything else. Just if a baby's crying, I can't do anything else. I want to console that baby. It's really hard when a stranger's baby cries, because I just want to be can I hold your baby? Can I help you in any way? Because I can't focus, because I'm very my high sensitivity is really about sound, because I'm an audio learner, which means I learn through listening. So I usually don't take notes. Didn't really take notes in college. I just listen to the professor and draw, and then I just remember what they were saying. So for me, because I think I learned that way, and that's one of my big ways I process, screaming or loud sounds, crowded places with lots of talking, Las Vegas is the worst place ever for me. Anything like that, I just can't. I'm this is too much. And so learning I was highly sensitive was extremely empowering. It's there's real scientific proof, it's a real thing. And I started really exploring that. But not everybody who's highly sensitive is an empath. And so being an empath, I was I can't deny it anymore, I guess, at this point. So I'm working towards being a spiritual guide. I don't like the term life coach. It's just not, I don't know. I don't think it really fits what I'm doing. I've taken classes in life coaching and it's very helpful, but that's not what I want to do. I want to do a little something different. I don't want to just help people with their goals. I want to also help them with their spirituality and their connection to God or the universe or the divine. And so, I'm looking into that. And last year I really spent, as I've talked about in previous blogs, decluttering and reading, and really on me. I spent a lot of time on me, getting myself ready to help others. Well, this year, for many reasons, I'm not branching out and starting that career yet. And I have this time, and I was really meditating and what else is there for me to get ready for this? What else do I need to explore? And so I started looking at energy and the energetic body and chakras and the meridians. I was like, this is something I really need to explore. And then one thing led to another, and I found a group of empaths on Facebook. And from there, I actually am enrolled in a class for empaths, and it's a seven course class on basically becoming more of an empowered empath. And if you're interested in that, let me know. I'll send it to you. So like I'll put it in there for you. But so I'm taking that class, and it's like, like I said, I don't really want to label myself, but at the same time, like I can't deny that I feel people's feelings. And if I'm going to really seriously try to help other people and work one-on-one with them, I don't want to take those feelings on. I need to figure out a way of dealing with the energy. So that's, where I'm at on my journey. So right now I'm working on that class. I'm actually working on energy and going to be monitoring my energy and working on raising my vibration and really, figuring out like how to do that. And because I want to be the best I can be for myself, for my family, and for others. I don't want to, it's like a cliche of the healer or the helper who's like really not healing themselves. Like I don't want to be the person who's healing other people but is just deteriorating. I want to be the person who's healing others and can do so because they're strong. So that's where I'm at on kind of that journey. And then on a kind of similar note, one of the issues I've struggled with as an empath is dealing with narcissists. And this has been in like the press, like I've seen some like articles on it, I've seen on social media, people just throwing the term narcissist around. And I haven't known that many that I know of, but I think I'd know. I haven't known that many, and I'm not one to like try to diagnose other people, but at the same time, I like to analyze, and I need to sometimes like understand like why this person is treating me this way, or why is this happening. Like I have to, it's just human nature. Like I have to understand. And so through this process, through therapy and things like that, I realized that my mom is a narcissist. She's got narcissistic personality disorder. And being raised by someone like that really skews like your normal. Like your ability to find normal or to like understand normal, because you're raised by someone who is different than the average. And so I've done a lot of reading on that. There's actually like a really good book. It was written by a therapist whose mom is a narcissist, and so it's for narcissist women who are daughters of narcissists. And I'll put the link down for you guys to see. That book I read after I had my daughter, and I at that point had already cut off contact with my mom, because my mom, while I was pregnant with my daughter, my sister was also pregnant. My sister had asked my mom to leave the house because she was doing drugs, and she had a boyfriend that was doing drugs. She's like, I need you to leave the house, and my sister owned the house. So I need you to go so that I can get the house ready for the baby, and if you want to come back when you're clean without him, you can. And so my mom was like obviously angry, and so she came over and she told me that she wanted to bash my sister's head in. And this is when I'm pregnant, my sister's pregnant, and at that point I went no contact with my mom. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. This is before I knew she was a narcissist. I just knew something was wrong. I always just knew that. I was raised for the first 5 years by my grandparents, who were really loving and kind. And then she moved me to California, away from them, from New Jersey. And it was like, okay, that was really traumatic for lots of reasons, but mainly because she's not a loving person. Like she, I think, is incapable of unconditional love. She loves her pets and animals, but like other people, not really. Like she even told me once that she loved our cat more than she loved her own mother, which was hard for me to take because my grandmother was like my mother and I was like really close with her. So anyway, so being raised by someone like that just kind of skewed me. And so, and also made me nervous. Like I felt like, I told my husband, like, I'm nervous to like go out there and help people, because what if I just attract people that are not good for me? And so he reminded me, because he's the best, he reminded me that every narcissist that I've ever come in contact with or gotten involved with, like through friendship or coworker or whatever, I don't like immediately. He's like, you always come home and you're like, I don't like this person. I don't know why, but they just gave me these like icky feelings. And he's like, and then later, somehow this person convinces you they're not that way and you become friends with them. So if you are like me or you're not like me, but first impressions and your gut feelings are so, so important. So what I'm going to do personally from now on is when I first meet somebody and that I think could be a potential client or friend or whatever, coworker, whatever, I'm going to write down that impression. Because if my first impression is like, ugh, then that's probably correct. Because as an empath, like I'm feeling things and I'm feeling things that my conscious brain isn't even picking up. Like I'm just getting these feelings and I really need to listen to them. So that's number one, is I'm going to really listen to that intuition and follow that gut feeling. And then the second thing is that I actually wrote down some things I've noticed about narcissists that I'm going to share with you. And then I'm not a therapist, I'm like, whatever, but this is my experience. So what I've noticed so that this is for me, and I suggest you do the same thing if you have like if you have narcissists in your life or you have some other similar kind of negative personality that just keeps showing up in different people, like you need to figure out why you're attracted to that and why they're attracted to you, and then put information down for yourself. This is what this is, and this is how I'm going to avoid it. So in my empath class that I'm taking, I'm going to learn about boundaries, which I think is going to help me significantly. But for now, I wrote it down. I made a list of the narcissistic traits that I have experienced with these people, so that when I start to see these pop up in somebody, it's a red flag for me to go, wait a minute. And then I'll pull back, I'll assess some things, and I'll do that, because that's what I haven't done in the past. I just like get caught up. As an empath, I always feel other people's feelings, and then I feel this need to help them. Like that's just something, it's like innate, and I love to help people, and that's why I want to do what I'm going to do. Like I really enjoy helping people. Like every morning I get up and I ask God, let me be an open vessel, let me speak your truth, let me walk your path, and let me guide others to you. Like that's what I want to do. But I can't, if I'm getting weighed down by these narcissists, I can't help everybody. Like you can't help everybody, first of all, and you can't help anybody that doesn't want help. But also, if I'm getting weighed down by these people, it's like not good for anybody, especially me and my family. So here's some traits I feel that narcissists have in common. They're all victims in their minds, and they all have had some real childhood trauma that they use to define themselves for the rest of their lives. And when they talk about this trauma, like I see them really relive it, and like they have all the emotions, and it's like over the top. And we all have childhood trauma, but if you let it define you, it's going to just rule your life, right? We all know this. And so we have to work through it, and they don't want to. They want to relive it and remain that victim. And then they, while they're that victim, a lot of times they're also the martyr. So because they're already in a victim state of mind at all times, they're always the victim. It's always, nothing is ever their fault. They don't apologize. And they like to keep, an us versus them mentality. Like, this person is out to get me, or like those kind of people. They're very judgy. Like there's a lot of judginess. And I didn't realize that. Like I just thought everybody's family was judgy. Like as a kid, but my mom was constantly like judging everybody for everything. And because I heard that growing up, I thought everybody was judging me for everything, which made me have like zero self-esteem, because I just thought, gosh, like everybody must be thinking like her, and they're just judging me for my pimples and whatever else, because she would call me fat and she would call me ugly, and she would say to me like, I can't believe you're gonna leave the house without makeup on. And I thought that's what other people were thinking too, and they're not. So if you grew up that way, they're not thinking that. Like most people don't really care about that stuff. So anyway, so they have that in common. They never apologize, like I said. They, if they show affection, it's through gift giving, and then that, or favor giving, and then that later becomes something they hold over you. Like, oh, remember that time I did that for you? Or I gave that to you? Or how is that thing I gave you? Or whatever. And then it just becomes like an endless cycle of you owing them. Like my mom would always say, like, I owe her because I'm not dead. I don't know what I owe her for, but like my own kids don't owe me anything. Like I love them. I chose to bring them in the world with, it's co-creating. I brought them. They're here. I'm going to raise them. I'm going to do my best for them, but they owe me nothing. Like they You don't know me anything. Anyway, and then from there, I think there's two types of narcissists. So there is the kind, I'm calling them the center of the story. And they're selfish, but pretty harmless. Like, they like to talk about themselves 24/7. Like, if you try to talk to them, it's like, it doesn't register. Like, you could be like, the sky is purple. And then they just keep talking like over you. And they're pretty harmless because like, they're pretty obvious. Like, you're like, it's so obvious that they're selfish and they're the center of their story. And that's like my mom. Like, it was not nice to be raised by someone like that because they're very neglectful. Like, obviously you don't matter as much as them and their feelings. So, that's pretty hard to take as a child. But for the most part, they're harmless. And then there's another type that is much more dangerous, in my opinion. And I call them the control the story type. And they're, and I'm not an expert, but I believe they show sociopathic tendencies. They're extremely manipulative. They're masterful liars and orchestrators of chaos and drama. And they like to create those kinds of things to control other people. So whereas the other type is the center of a story, this type is the controlling of the story. And I think the other type, like the first type of narcissist, like my mom, sees this as just kind of like extras in their life, like not really that important. Whereas this type sees this as puppets, like to control and to dominate and to use as pawns for whatever means. Like, they're really real Machiavellians. Like, they're going to do whatever to justify whatever they want. And I find them frightening. I had some in my life, and they're terrifying to be around. So that's me. So that's me writing that. That's like a therapy for me, like coming up with, these are the types of narcissists. And so that I'm able to avoid them in my life. So this is where I'm at. I'm on my empath journey. I'm taking this class. I am working with my energy. I'm becoming more in tune with my empathness, and I guess, I don't know if that's a word, but becoming more aware and, with it, so that I can use it as a tool to help other people instead of it using me and draining me. So that's kind of where I'm at. If you have questions, if you're an empath, if you have concerns, if you're like, what are you talking about? Leave comments for me and I would be happy to answer them. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this kind of sort of rambling, and so that way you can help me out. And I'm trying to reach 100 subscribers. Like, that would be really cool, because then I can have like my own URL with my name. So if you want to help me out, I'd appreciate it.